So we get to the siyum of Avodah Zarah, of Masechta Avodah Zarah Daf Ayin Vav Amud Beis, the finale of the Masechta, which loops back to the overture of the Masechta, the power of no Idkher ma Avdat Beortah. And the principle is that we express our true identities not by the things we do, but by the things we refuse to do, because the things we refuse to do define our boundaries, and our boundaries define our identity. That applies whether it's our identity as individuals or our identity as families, as communities, as nations, as faiths. What differentiates us one from the other are the things we don't do, the things we refuse to do. The shir has been sponsored by Mr. Alan Katz. Alan has been a Talmud for a long time, longer than you or less than you. He was there when you joined. He was about the same time, a very, very long time. Alan was the kind of person who I had to be careful with, because if I ever said something that contradicted a shir I'd given 10 years before, he remembered that. He would quote and tell me exactly what shir I'd said something different, and he remembered every one of the shirim. So we're grateful to Alan for sponsoring this last shir of Masechta Avodah Zarah. It's in memory of his late wife, Rachel Bat Yehuda Va'ado, whose 6th yahrzeit was yesterday, Zayin Elul. She is an Ashes Chayil, a grandmother, a supporter of friends in need. Wish him and his family Arichus Yomim Tovim. So I'm going to start with 3 questions on Masechta Avodah Zarah. 3 questions that have been worrying me from the beginning till the end, and now we'll have an approach into answering. Question number 1, why is the Masechta called Avodah Zarah? So you can say, well, then why is any Masechta called anything? Well, all the other Masechtas are called things we have to do. Shabbos, we keep Shabbos. Eruvin, we make an Eruv. Rosh Hashanah, we keep Rosh Hashanah. Whatever it is, Sanhedrin, we have a din with Sanhedrin. Makos, the dinim that a Beis Din has to be Mekayim. Nezikin, Bava Kama, Bava Metzia, Bava Basra, we said is the Masechta that saves, it's the Sefer Yeshuas, it saves us from people doing wrong to us and from us doing wrong to other people. And Zvachim and Menachos that we're coming to, Nedorim, they're all things we're meant to do. Avodah Zarah? This is the Masechta about Avodah Zarah? What do we care? Why do we need a Masechta on Avodah Zarah? It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Question number 2, why do we have so much on Avodah Zarah when Tosfos says on Daf Beis Amud Aleph already, on the first page, when he's exploring why we're not so makpid about not doing business with idolaters on the days before their festivities, and one of the reasons he gives is Shekim lan begavayo de lo palchel avodas kochavim. We've established that there's no real Avodah Zarah today. Even the Goyim don't practice Avodah Zarah. It's not real Avodah Zarah. We don't have that which used to be Avodah Zarah. We don't even have. So we have this whole Masechta called Avodah Zarah to teach us stuff that we don't need to know. It's weird, and won't need to know. And the third question is why the Masechta ends with such a weird story. So let's learn the story. The Mishnah says, our last Mishnah says, Hasakin shafa v'hi tzohara. The way to kasher a knife that has been used for treif, if one wants to use the knife for cold, is simply to clean it. The way you clean it is by sticking it 10 times into firm earth, firm ground, firm sand. I've heard people who leave their knives in the sand for 3 days. It's just amaratzis. They get confused with the din of soaking glass for 3 days and of neitza bekarka. There's no such thing as burying the sand in. It's the friction you want against. It's like using steel wool. So it cleans off the outer layers of fattiness on the knife by sticking it into the ground 10 times. It must be not soft land. We're talking about a smooth knife, not one that has lots of little cracks and crevices in it. Tanya Nami Hachi, we had such a case. Sakin Yafashin Bagumus, no Atzasor Pomi Bekaka. Omar Avuna Breder of Yeshua. Lechol Batsonin, this is only to eat if you're going to eat it for cold. If you're going to eat it for hot, you have to kasher it properly. Kiyoda Mar Yehuda Uvati Bar Tuvi, like the story of Mar Yehuda and Bati Bar Tuvi. Bati Bar Tuvi was his slave. Havuyatvi Kame de Shvor Malka. They were sitting in front of the king, of the ruler. We've had Shvor Malka before. It was a person who knows a lot about halacha and a lot of respect for Torah and for Talmidei Chachomim. Aisur lekamayu etrog. They brought an esrog in front of the Shvor Malka. So they're sitting down at the table. The servants bring a beautiful esrog to the Shvor Malka, the king. Posak ochal, he sliced a piece off and he ate it. Posak v'havle lebati bar tuvi, and he sliced another piece and offered it to Bati bar tuvi. Hada datsa asoro zimnim bar, then he took the knife and stuck it into the ground 10 times. Posak havle lemar Yehuda, he took another slice of the esrog and he offered it to Mar Yehuda, who's Rav Yehuda. Omale Bati bar tuvi. Bati bar tuvi is very offended. V'hau gabra lav bar Yisrael, and this person sitting here, is this person not Jewish? That you kasher the knife before you give it to my boss, but you don't kasher it before you give it to me? I'm an Eved, but an Eved has to keep the mitzvahs as well. Omale mar kimli begave or mar loy kimli begave. I know Rav Yehuda's makbid. He's very careful about these things and wouldn't eat the slice if I didn't kasher the knife first. I'm not so sure. So I didn't clean the knife. Ike de Amri, and some say, and this is how the Masechta ends on this. Omale, he said to them, or said to him, Idkir mai avadit beurta. And what happened last night, Bati bar tuvi? Do you want me to give any further details, or should we just leave it there? Explains Rashi, the custom was, if you had important guests, you would send them company for the night. And Rav Yehuda rejected the company, and Bati bar tuvi welcomed the company. And the Shvor Malka says, don't tell me all of a sudden you're frum. Don't tell me all of a sudden you're worried about whether the knife's been kashered. I know what happened in the middle of the night when your boss wasn't looking. And when you thought there's nothing wrong with it, because as Rashi says, this is the custom here. It's not as if you're doing something terrible. This is the custom here. I once had a situation that I had to get out of where I was with a head of state in a certain country that I won't mention, and he wanted to entertain me. And the way he wanted to entertain me was to provide me with the most exotic company that I could possibly imagine. And he couldn't understand the fact that was a no-go. We weren't even going to talk about that. That was an absolute no-go. It was difficult for him to conceive how one would say no to such a thing. So that was the custom in certain parts of the world. That still is the custom. And Rav Yehuda says absolutely not. Bati bar tuvi, he follows the custom of the local people. That's how we end the Masechta of Avodah Zarah. What is that about? Why that story of all the stories? That's where you've got to end the Masechta of Avodah Zarah. And what does it have to do with Avodah Zarah? It is not by chance that when Ravina and Ravashi put the Gemara together, when they edited it, curated it, edited it, and created Shas, created the Gemara, Masechta Avodah Zarah starts with a lamed. Lifnei edeim shalovdi kichovim shloisho yomim. Starts with a lamed and ends with an aleph. Lo. This Masechta is about what we don't do. This Masechta is not about what we do. All the other Masechtas are about the things we do. Avodah Zarah is about the things we don't do. And you'll remember, Avodah Zarah is the lo ta'aseh of the mitzvah of emunah. I think we talked about that in the overture of the Masechta. That the mitzvah of emunah, Anochi Hashem Elokechem asher hotzeisti eschem me'eretz Mitzrayim. I am the Lord your God who took you out of Egypt. That's the first of the Aseres HaDibros. But if you look at the way the Aseres HaDibros is spaced in the Torah, the first and the second are one piece. There's a space, there's a samach between every one of the 10 commandments, but there's no space between Anochi and Lo Yiyeh. That's one paragraph. The last two, Lo Tachmed Eishes Reich and Lo Tachmed Beis Reich, or Lo Tisave, as it is in the second time around, there's a space. So the truth is, the first commandment is Anochi and Lo Yiyeh. I am the Lord your God, there should be no other God. That's the first commandment. And then you've got another 9. And a whole discussion as to why we consider it differently. But if you look at the way it's written in the Torah, that's the way it's written in the Torah. Lo Yiyeh is the flip side of Anochi, which means it's a mitzvah tmidis, which means it's a perpetual mitzvah. Just as you have to believe in Hashem all the time, so you have to deny Avodah Zarah all the time. How do you deny Avodah Zarah if Tosfos says Kimla, where there isn't Avodah Zarah today? Yes, that's talking about formal Avodah Zarah. But the principle of Avodah Zarah is Avodah Zarah, to practice, to serve, to worship something that is alien ideas, alien values, alien thoughts. It doesn't have to be an idol. It doesn't matter what the idol is. The idol can be socialism. The idol can be capitalism. The idol can be liberal democracy. Whatever the idol is, when one value is placed in a position of supremacy over other values, when all other values are subjugated to one value, and that's no matter what, that cannot be touched, that is Avodah Zarah. And we've discussed before that even in Israel today, the big debate in the nation is this first and foremost a Jewish state and democratic as far as that's possible? Or is it first and foremost a democratic state and Jewish as far as possible? The issue is whether it's Avodah Zarah or it's Anochi Hashem Elokeichem. That's the issue. Are we going to put democracy above Torah or Torah above democracy? It's Masechta Avodah Zarah. Although we're not dealing with formal idolatry, we're dealing with Avodah Zarah, with the idea of serving a principle that is alien to the Torah and making that the supreme principle. Yes, democracy is a good thing if it's within the guardrails of the Torah. But if it obliterates the Torah, there's no way we would put democracy first, because that would be Avodah Zarah. That's what this Masechta is about. And it's about law. It's about the ability to say no. So if we go back to the very beginning of the Masechta, where we said the mitzvah, the chiyuv is not to do business with idol worshippers for a few days before their day of celebration, and the word used in the Mishnah is eidehem. Their day of celebration is eidehem. And then we have a machlokes Rav and Shmuel on the first Amud of the Gemara, whether that eidehem should be written with an aleph or an ayin. So in those days, at that time of Rav and Shmuel, the Mishnah was probably not yet published and written. It was known by heart. So the language was known. Lifnei eidehem. Everybody knew that. Every cheder child knew this. The first Mishnah in Avodah Zarah is Lifnei eidehem shelo yivdei chovim shelo yomim. Everybody knew that. But how do you spell eidehem? Do you spell it with an ayin or do you spell it with an aleph? What's the difference? Says the Gemara, man detani eidehem lo mishtabish, man detani eidehem lo mishtabish. They're both right. Man detani eidehem lo mishtabish tichtiv ki karov yom eidam. There's a posuk in Ha'azinu which talks about the fact that ultimately there will be a time when idolatry and idolaters will be tragically ended. Yom eidam, the day of their tragedy. That's with an aleph. And so we talk about their days of celebration as days that will ultimately be tragedy. And what about the other one? We've got another posuk in Yeshayahu, when the nations of the world will come and they will say, Yitnu eidehem v'yitzdaku. They will give their evidence and will be proved right. Their evidence will be right. They'll give evidence that the Nevi'im warned them against idolatry, that the Jewish people warned them against idolatry. They'll see the truth and they'll understand and they'll accept it. Yitzdaku, they'll accept that their idolatry was wrong. That's eidehem, that's their evidence. And the Marshal explains what is the evidence, what's the power of the evidence. The Marshal says, as the Mekubolim say, B'chol ma'aseh yedei adam nivra davar ruchani lifi ha'ma'aseh, that whatever one does creates a force in the world. If one does a mitzvah, you create a positive energy in the world. You increase the positive energy in the world. When, God forbid, you do an aveira, you do something that's wrong against the Torah, you create a negative energy in the world. And this energy will be the cause of their downfall. There's a beautiful, the Lubavitcher Rebbe used to give a wonderful shir at the end of every Masechta. When he used to make a siyum, he used to give the most amazing shir. I was present at one of those shiurim, I think it was Masechta Beitza. And thousands of people were there. And he gives half of the shir, part of the shir is Kabbalah things, Hasidus and Kabbalah. I didn't understand much of it at the time. And the other half is Halacha. He gives Lomdus. He learns the Gemara with the people. And most of the other people there didn't understand that all the time. But it was absolutely brilliant. And here we see the brilliance here in Masechta Avodah Zarah as well. He also links the back to the front, and he says, what is the machlokes Rav and Shmuel in the beginning? The Gemara actually says what it is. When the Gemara says, but yes, you're right, surely we should say Eideim with an aleph, which means the day of their tragedy, because that's what it's really all about. Why does it say it? Man ko gorim luhu tavro. Yes, they will be destroyed, it will be tragic, but you've got to go to the source. What will cause their destruction? It will be Eidut sheheidu be'atzman. Hilkach Eidut adifa. It will be that force that the Maharsha explains that they created on their days of festivity, when they had their celebrations and they were dancing in front of their idols and worshipping and bringing sacrifices to their idols. They were creating a force so powerful that it would ultimately undo them. When there was enough of that force that had accumulated in the world, it would destroy them. So you've got to get back to the source. Why are they destroyed? It's all very well you want to say Eidem with an Aleph, the day of their tragedy and destruction. But we've got to go into the concept. What is the cause of that tragedy and destruction? It says the Gemara, what's the tragedy is the negative force that they created. Says the Lubavitcher Rebbe, so the machlokes is, when you're looking at an issue, do you look at the way it manifests, or do you look at the underlying cause? It's a difference in worldview, it's a difference in perspective. So now come back to the story. In the case where Bati Bar Tuvi says, am I also not a Jew? Says the Shvar Malka, no, being a Jew is not just whether you've been to the mikveh or not. This is not just a technical issue. Are you Jewish or are you not Jewish? What's the halacha? Look up in the Shulchan Aruch. For me, says the Shvar Malka, a Jew is an Adam Kodesh, a Jew is a holy person. And we know from the Chazal, from Rashi and Parshas Kedoshim, Kedusha means precious. Kedusha means saying no. The ability to say no to that which is not holy. The ability to say no to that which is negative. That's Kedusha. It says, Rav Yehuda Makirani Boshu Parush. I know that Rav Yehuda is a Parush. He knows how to say no. I'm not so sure you do. Ikeda Amri, and then you've got the second view. And if you want to know the cause, if you want to know how I know that you're not a Jew, how do I know that you're not a Polish? If you're holding back on the first Daf Amud of the Gemara and you want to go, Ma Goram Lahu, what caused this? What causes their destruction? It's what happened last night. Do you remember exactly what happened last night? He says to him, do you remember Bati Bar Tuvi? Do I need to give you explicit examples of what happened? That's how I know you're not a Jew. You might technically be a Jew. You had your bris. You've been to the mikveh. Maybe you've done all that stuff. Maybe you've even got to get shichru. There's a whole question about that or not, whether you're free or not. But to me, you're not a Jew. Because for me, a Jew is a person who knows how to say no to anything that counters his faith and his belief. And you're not such a person. And therefore, I didn't bother to kasher the knife before I cut the esrog for you. But for Rav Yehuda, that's different. That's to understand how we're seen even by the goyim in the world. The people that are respected, and there have been many examples and conversations that some of even the extreme Muslim terrorists have had about their respect for Jews who keep the Torah versus Jews who don't keep the Torah. I'm not giving any kind of justification, God forbid, to anything that they do. But to understand that even be'enei hagoyim, hi chochmatchem, they see our wisdom and greatness in the way we keep the Torah and understand the Torah. They see our wisdom and greatness in the ability to say law. That first letter of the Masechta joined with the last letter of the Masechta, this is a Masechta about law. This is a Masechta about the things we don't do. This is the Masechta about defining our emunah in Hashem by the values we don't accept, by the principles that the whole world might accept but we don't accept. That's what this Masechta is really about. And that's why the Masechta ends on this note and explains the essence of what the whole Masechta is, how we define ourselves by the things we don't do, not just the food we don't eat. It's the separateness, that we keep ourselves separate so that we're not contaminated or diluted. We're not diluted by intermarriage, and we're not contaminated by those kinds of views. And the way we contaminate is by over-socializing with people who have values that are very opposite from our own values. And all of the halachas in Avodah Zarah are designed to prevent such dilution and to prevent such contamination. And the most important part of that is the kelim. If I just kept kashrus and I said, I keep kosher. The meat has to be kosher, no meat and milk, the food must all be kosher. And the guy says, that's fine, I'll cook for you. Just tell me, give me a list of ingredients that I can get. Now I've got to say, but there's still a problem. Kelim. I can't use your pots, I can't use your pans, I can't use your plates, I can't use your knives and forks. No, it's already okay, so then maybe we don't do this. It's the mitzvah of kelim, it's the mitzvah of blias kelim, the fact that we can't use utensils that have absorbed non-kosher food. That keeps us separate more than the laws of kashrus. And that's why those halachas are in Masechta Avodah Zarah. And that's why the Masechta ends with all of those halachot. The halachas that really keep us separate, that really create the boundaries, that protect our identity as people of the law. People who can say no. We can say no to ourselves, we can say no to others, and we can say no to those values that counter the values of Torah.